We won the popular vote by big numbers and won counties in our country.
Good evening, late night. I am Fred Wellman, host of Online VoteVets, right here at the VoteVets channel. We have got a late night show. You know, we love doing this. If you've been around for a while, we did the debates, we did this. We're so excited to join you tonight after the first joint session speech by President Trump. Not technically a State of the Union, although we call it that. We just thought we'd come together with you guys, talk about, there was an expectation that the president would talk about national security issues of the veterans, DOGE. He talked a lot about transgender things, but that's how it started. Right from the gate, Democrats showed up looking to cause a fight, looking to make some noise. As he was walking down the aisle, Stansbury was standing. I don't know if you saw Representative Stansbury sign says this is not normal, which was great. They definitely came ready to cause a ruckus, and it did. By the way, that was Representative Al Green shaking his fist and his cane. This is what happened next for Representative Green, if you missed it.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Yep, Democracy 2025, folks. Welcome to America in the new age, in the new Trump administration. It is going to be a ride, as you can see. I'm sure a lot of you may have skipped. I can see in the comments a lot of you skipped it. You missed a little bit. You didn't miss a lot. We got a lot of clips to show you, thanks to our friends online. But I want to bring two wonderful guests in. Of course, you may know them already. You may not. Matt's a new guy. We're going to bring in former Congressman Max Rose, friend of VoteVets, senior advisor, was on the Hill today with us. And, of course, our comms director, Matt Corridoni. Matt, great to have you as well. We've got the whole team here. Welcome, guys. Great to see you. Max, good to see you, sir. How are you today?
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming in late. We coordinated with Max almost 15 minutes ago. And he still showed up. Matt knew what was going on, but if you guys know us here at VoteVets on the line vote, you know we pick this thing up and go. I guess I just start with you, Max. First impressions as a former member, you've been in this is a wild, raucous one, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is Trump 2.0. I think what you actually saw here is a really interesting projection for what the politics of the budget and CR negotiations are going to be. Yeah. Normally, the way that this goes is that the opposition party calls balls and strikes and actually makes an effort to stand up and show that they are willing to meet halfway on certain issues. But really what the Democrats came out today was to say, no, we oppose this administration and this rejection of our governing norms outright. And so I actually think, just to put my pundit hat on for a second,
that's why you're
like
here,
I think that's what's going to play out in the future CR discussions too. Rightfully so. Right, that this guy is going before Congress and telling Congress that they're irrelevant. And this was the Democrats' first opportunity today to symbolically oppose that. Just one last point, though, on this. I do think it was the right thing that Democrats were there, and I was proud that they were there. I know that there was certainly a lot of chatter about most of them not showing up, but what the whole nation saw today is that, and not just the nation, the globe, was that there is an opposition to this, and that opposition is forthright. Some of them might have canes, but nonetheless, they're spry, and it's real.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the energy we've been looking for a lot. I mean, I know we hear that a lot from our VoteVets members. I know you guys were on the Hill today. I'm really eager to talk to you about that. But there is this energy amongst a lot, especially on the progressive side, who are saying, look, we would like to see the same recognition of the dire circumstance from our elected leaders as we feel, right? I mean, there seems to have been a disconnect. I think in a lot of ways, seeing them holding signs, seeing them risking getting kicked out of the House, stopping out. Some of them did walk out halfway because they couldn't take it anymore. It is symbolically as it may be, it does send a message to those of us out here that, yeah, they get it, right?
I would be really weirded out and dissatisfied if the Democratic base and the angry independent coalition out there sat back and, in the face of Donald Trump throwing away separation of powers, in the face of Donald Trump firing a bunch of vets, in the face of Donald Trump disbanding the VA before our very eyes, there's nothing that anyone should do or could do where everyone else would say, oh yeah, no, I feel like it's a proper reaction. I feel like we got this under control. That doesn't exist. Does not exist. The one time where this will feel like we have made proper headway is when we take back the House in this next election. And that's a good ways away. So it's a fight until then. Now, what we've seen in previous elections, though, is that you take back the House actually in the off year. That this president will get weakened politically due to our forthright political opposition, while also extending a hand when and if he actually wants to respect the Constitution, respect co-equal branches, and serve the American people irrespective of party. But should he continue along this track, now is the time when he's to be politically weakened, because that's what paves the way for true political gain in the on year. So the election is oddly enough right in front of us, but it's certainly going to be a fight.
And Matt, you were watching. I know we've been watching for the VoteVets policy angles. Obviously, we focus on national security. We focus on our military members. We talk about our veterans heavily. It wasn't a lot. I mean, there wasn't a lot of meat in that speech for us. Although you did touch on his desire to steal Ukraine or steal Greenland and steal the Panama Canal, and of course did talk about Ukraine. Did you see any meat for where VoteVets stands?
Yeah, I think, Democrats should not be working under the assumption that their elected leaders don't know how serious and dire this is, right?
Yeah.
Having spent the entire day on the Hill with, Speaker Pelosi and Senator Blumenthal met with our members, they're aware. To me, the takeaway is not the signs. It's not people getting taken out. Things like that make the internet feel good sometimes, but they shouldn't be the focus. To me, the focus is what Trump said, and more importantly, what he didn't say.
Yeah.
Speeches like this, States of the Union, you run a campaign on a list of priorities. That translates into an inaugural speech where you lay out what your goals are over the next 4 years. State of the Union is a nice check-in on where you are with meeting those campaign priorities and goals you laid out in your inauguration. If it's your second term, it's more so legacy building. Trump ran on this American first agenda, right? And he did so by throwing a lot of red meat to his base. He did not take the opportunity tonight to be presidential and talk about what he's doing to lower costs for the American people. He continued to throw out red meat to his base, and he, packaged it under this, America first lie. The person who did talk about lowering costs was the Democratic response,
Yeah.
Alyssa Slotkin, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's the main takeaway here, is that Trump was focused on throwing red meat to his base. He was not really focused on presenting an agenda that would lower costs for Americans. And the key thing that I think we need to remember is that Republicans knew that was going to happen. When I was talking to reporters in the lead up to the speech and saying, what are Republicans thinking, feeling, saying, Trump 1.0, they were always heading into this stuff nervous, right? That they would have to clean up his mess. That he was going to go off script, that they were setting the bar so low that as long as he made one complete sentence, they could say, this is when he became presidential. They knew he was going to go off script tonight. They knew what he was going to do. They were leaning into it, and they were preparing to come out of it praising it. And we don't have people like Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney around anymore. And so this is the binary. What he did tonight, that is what the Republican Party stands for. They stand for stoking fear. What Alyssa Slotkin did tonight, that's what the Democratic Party stands for, lowering costs.
Yeah, we got that one clip. I mean, the one time he talked about cost, a couple of times he talked about lowering costs, he didn't actually talk about lowering them at all. He actually warned to be paying. I think we had the clip when he talks about the disturbance from the tariffs, right, JJ? I think you got that clip. I think number 8.
They're about protecting the soul of our country. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh.
A little disturbance. I mean, price is going to go up. The stock market crashed today. Right? We saw the stock market 2 days. It was 1,300 points in 2 days from his tariff wars. There's even rumors already he's kind of backing off a little bit. So you're right. It was two opposites, right? Where not only did he not talk about lowering prices, he blamed Biden for eggs, and then talked about his own tariffs going to cause a disturbance for average Americans. So not a lot of things, nothing to feel warm and fuzzy about for kitchen table issues, is there?
No, I don't know anyone in, my home district of Pittsburgh who walked away from that feeling like things are going to get economically better.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, he's very excited about his tariffs, that's for sure. And then he talked quite a bit about. So did get in the military a little bit. I think he talked about the woke military. The same stuff that, like you said, you really did. I think you summarized it very nicely, Matt. When you say a lot of this is just red meat, red meat. So we did talk about our military. It was about getting rid of DEI. I think we have a couple of pieces there about the woke military stuff that he highlighted. Hegseth, as a matter of fact, JJ, on those.
Because we're getting wokeness out of our schools and out of our military, and it's already out, and it's out of our society. We don't want it. Wokeness is trouble. Wokeness is bad. It's gone. It's gone. And we feel so much better for it, don't we? Don't we feel better? Our service members won't be activists and ideologues. They will be fighters and warriors. They will fight for our country. And Pete, congratulations. Secretary of Defense, congratulations.
One thing that jumped out at me, that Max, I sure you appreciate it. Did you notice that the Joint Chiefs in there were all white males? We took 2 weeks, just took 2 weeks to go from a diverse Joint Chiefs to 8 white males, isn't it?
Yeah. They've spread this line. Diversity is not our strength. Our unity of purpose is our strength. And I do actually think we should talk about that for a second, because the two are not mutually exclusive.
No.
Of course, unity of purpose is a military strength. I don't think anyone was ever denying that. But it appears that they do think that diversity infringes upon unity of effort.
Right.
And it's just this notion of America, and this notion of it's almost like an ignorance to the way the military actually works, right? That and it's really sad It's really, really sad because it's no coincidence that the people they've all fired are people of color. It's just that, I mean, it can't be a coincidence. You know, the other point though I would make here, Donald Trump seems today to have confused himself as to why he won. He won because of a few reasons: the Biden administration's failure at the border, Harris's abject inability to separate herself from Biden and to speak clearly about the concerns that the American people were having. He did not win because of the crazy shit he spoke about today. So you start, this is how political parties lose. This is what happened to the Democrats at times. You start to get co-opted by a radical extreme minority wing of your own party.
Yep.
It's not usual though that it happens this quickly. 6 weeks in to your term. Normally what the purpose of this speech is for the newly elected president to stand up and really piss off the opposition by talking about uniting the country. That's usually what infuriates the opposition party during this time, is that they have to stand up so many times and cheer, because basically the president keeps on talking about motherhood and apple pie. There was one leader tonight that did that, and that was Alyssa Slotkin.
Yeah.
Alyssa Slotkin was far more presidential in a way than Donald Trump, because she talked about the promise of America. She talked about the future of America. She talked about how we are so much stronger when we are not divided.
Yeah.
And you know, she did that. We were joking earlier. She did that in a speech that a lot of people said she shouldn't do. A lot of people said, when you do this speech, man, when you do
Matt's
this
laughing.
speech, you're gonna drink the bottle of water like Rubio, right? You know, you're gonna have a video game behind you like Stacey Abrams. You're gonna, you know, look like a serial killer like Katie Britt. But that's not what happened here.
Yeah.
Instead, she showed what I think the president and future leadership of the party can look like, which is a no bullshit type of Democrat that
Yeah.
speaks clearly, speaks forthrightly, doesn't operate from a place of fear about what people might say about her speech when she doesn't say this. I'll tell you one thing about Alyssa Slotkin's speech today. It wasn't put through some filter. It wasn't put through some what I call Excel spreadsheet politics, where they said, wait a second, we got to make sure that this advocacy group and this advocacy group and this advocacy group and this one, that we throw a bone to each of them, right? What she did instead is she presented a cogent message that everyone can see themselves in and they can be inspired by, both personally and collectively.
Yeah.
And that was once what our party was about. Not thinking, you know, does the league of who's a what's its and the coalition of Fakata, God knows what else, are they gonna get pissed off at me tomorrow when I didn't throw them a 9-word bone in my speech? That's what we've been doing for a long time in our party, and people can't fucking understand what we're saying when we do that. And it was really amazing today to see her completely reject that type of politics and that type of communication.
A lot of people may have missed it. Yeah, let's show her talk about Elon Musk and DOGE real quick, because kind of get a feel for what you're talking about, Max.
While we're on the subject of Elon Musk, is there anyone in America who is comfortable with him and his gang of 20-year-olds using their own computer servers to poke through your tax returns, your health information, and your bank accounts? No oversight, no protections against cyber attack, no guardrails on what they do with your private data. We need a more efficient government. You want to cut waste? I'll help you do it. But change doesn't need to be chaotic or make us less safe. the mindless firing of people who work to protect our nuclear weapons, keep our planes from crashing, and conduct the research that finds the cure for cancer, only to rehire them 2 days later? No CEO in America could do that without being summarily fired.
There you go. Straight as you can be. You know,
It's
what do you
the
think, Matt?
it's the consumer impact, I think, is, Kate Bedingfield phrased it that way at one point. Democrats don't need to knee-jerk defend bureaucracy. We need to talk about the consumer impact of what they're doing. And I think if you compare that to what Donald Trump was doing, to your original point about diversity, Donald Trump attacks diversity for the sake of diversity. He's not talking about how he'll make the military more safe, strong, and strategic, right? Alyssa Slotkin is not attacking Elon Musk and Doge for the sake of attacking Elon Musk and Doge. She's talking about what the real world consumer impact is of what they're doing and how that's hurting everyday Americans. And one of the smartest things she said there, which is something that VoteVets said when Doge was first formed, is we would love to help you make the government more efficient. Please fix the VA, work with us to do it. That's not what you're doing right now. And so it's a very on point call out that I think she mastered in the entire response.
Yeah.
Now
And look, think about what she didn't say, right?
Yeah.
Think about what terms didn't come. She didn't talk about separation of powers. She didn't talk about World War II, right? She didn't, the word post-war order. She didn't, the word neoliberalism. She didn't talk, none of this stuff that, people say, oh, you sound like an academic or this or that. It's not that, right? I think that we can have an intellectual party, right? I think that we don't have to be, overly brutish.
Yeah.
But it wasn't put through a filter, a DC filter. Right. And this is why so much of what we're going to be talking about in the coming months is recruiting and elevating the right candidates. Because what I promise you about that speech that Alyssa just did, that was her words. That was her opinion. That was her language, not some other consultants or senior staff. It was probably a team effort, but it was her work. And that's what real leadership looks like.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're a staffer, and I don't mean to get too nitty gritty here, but I really do think that this is part of the problem of the party right now.
Yeah.
Is who cares about what, right? What Alyssa cared about was the incredible mission that she had to represent the future of the party and the present opposition to this craziness, and to show millions of people that there's a way out and there's a reason to keep on fighting. She didn't care about crazy inside baseball minutia.
Mhm.
And for too long we've been locked in that.
Yeah.
And that's again, I apologize for repeating myself, but that's what I found to be really so pivotal about those remarks.
Great. And I'd be remiss if I didn't circle back to, you talk about Doge cuts. We were on the Hill today. For those who don't know, we flew in. You had to fly in today, right, Matt, of about half a dozen of our veterans. Tell us a little bit about the fly-in, what our goal was, who we brought in, and how that ties into what Alyssa was talking about.
Yeah, there's a picture right there of the folks we brought in with Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut, who's been a great champion on pushing back against this. We hosted a reception this morning over breakfast with some of the members we work with in Congress to come and meet these veterans who've been directly impacted by DOGE, either by being fired or having services cut off that they needed access to. They're from across the country, including red states. There's one of them with Speaker Amaretta Pelosi, who demanded to see pictures of Max's children the second she arrived, which was the day. But it was an opportunity for them to tell their stories and to put
Yeah.
names and faces and personal touches. This isn't numbers. These aren't people who are non-essential employees. These are people who need these resources. These are people who make contributions to our government. These are people who work for FEMA, work for the VA, help keep our families safe. Republicans can't just ignore this. And so if Republicans were not going to engage with them and talk to them, we were going to bring them to Washington and around the president's speech today, not make it a spectacle, but, make it a personal story and humanize this issue and put it in their faces. And so we were around the Hill with them today. They had a great day getting to talk to members of Congress, be on the Hill, share their stories. The members got to uplift their stories, and they can now take the experience of meeting these folks and go into committee hearings and talk to their Republican colleagues and do news interviews and really add the stories and the faces and the names we were talking about to this topic and make it so that Republicans can't run away from the fact that they're firing veterans.
Let me just to make a quick point about these veterans that were here today. They are going through something really personally traumatic for themselves and their family.
Yeah.
All the anxieties around how you're going to continue to support your family, how you're going to continue to live a life of purpose, regret, and all the rest. What was truly amazing is that we didn't hear 1 second of any of those emotions today. What we heard from each and every one of them over and over again is, how can we fight this? How can we stop this? How can we be there for all those other veterans, all those other government employees who are being wrongfully fired? How can we be there for the American people who are going to lose out on the services that they have come to depend on? And that type of selflessness, that type of resiliency that they showed today, that didn't just come out of nowhere. They have that because they're vets.
Yeah.
And that's why they perform so remarkably in uniform, and that's why they continue to perform so remarkably outside of uniform in government service. Several of them today were fired because they had been promoted recently, and they were on their probationary periods. And just to think how crassly the administration is taking this, Counselor Haba, Trump's former legal spokeswoman,
Yep.
said today that, well, these folks should have done better at their job. They should maybe find another source of employment. And she's lying.
Right.
She's lying. They were not relieved because of performance. That's just a lie.
Right.
And it's demeaning and it's disrespectful. And that's the culture that they have, right? They use the vets to get elected, and now they're going to use them for something else. They're going to discard them. Thank you for your service. You're fired. That's what's sickening to me.
Yep.
About this.
Yep. And a couple of those guys, I mean, one of them lost his health care, I believe, the cancer treatment, didn't he, Matt?
Yeah. Stage 4 cancer, thankfully currently in remission, but that is due to experimental treatment he's getting through Johns Hopkins, which may lose their funding because of the NIH freezes.
Jesus.
And
it's just
to Max's, well, not to cut you off, but to Max's point, coming forward like that and telling your story and telling it to a member of Congress and being willing to chat with an MSNBC camera on Capitol Hill takes a huge amount of bravery to put yourself out there like that and expose yourself, especially with how we know the right wing will act, not just online, but in real life. And not once today did you hear anyone talk about the fear they had of coming forward. They did not think about their own personal concerns. They thought about themselves as advocates for the rest of their community and the rest of their country.
I just added that clip. JJ, why don't you show what we responded to with Lena Haba's comments today on the White House lawn when asked about the veterans that have been fired by the feds?
President starting to think about maybe some of those veterans who worked for the federal government and maybe what the administration can do to at least help salvage their lives?
Well, as you know, we care about veterans tremendously. I mean, that's something the president has always cared about. Anybody in blue, anybody that serves this country. But at the same time, we have taxpayer dollars. We have a fiscal responsibility to use taxpayer dollars to pay people that actually work. That doesn't mean that we forget our veterans by any means. We are going to care for them in the right way, but perhaps they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work. And we can't, I wouldn't take money from you and pay somebody and say, sorry, they're not going to come to work. It's just not acceptable.
It's amazing. I've watched that clip almost a dozen times today, and I get enraged every fucking time. Especially, I mean, you two gentlemen spent the day with the veterans who were affected by this. Did those veterans you spent the day with not seem fit for jobs or didn't want to come to work to you guys? Any of you met, Max?
No, no, of course not. But that's never why they were doing any of this.
No.
Right? They, the federal workforce accounts for less than 15% of the entire federal budget.
Yeah.
What they are seeking to do here is demean the entire federal government so that they can destroy it and give money to really, really wealthy people. And so in the face of those goals, which is corruption, they will seek to destroy anyone, even if you have put your life on the line for their country.
Yeah.
That's the real evil here. And that's why she's doing what she's doing, because it's a radical political project.
Yeah.
I think that they did not know how many veterans the federal government employs, and they've run into a buzzsaw.
Yeah.
Because you can't do what she just said. You can't operate in those two continuums at the same exact time to say, we care for vets. I always care for vets. She threw in some blue stuff there too out of nowhere. And so she just kind of made a hodgepodge of like shallow,
some things,
patriotic, machismo shit. And then said, all right, I checked the box on that. I'm going to demean the hell out of them now. You can't, it's like, dude, I heard what you said 15 seconds ago, like how the two can't coexist. But that was what the Trump campaign was, right? They said, thank you for your service constantly, over and over and over again. We're going to be there for the vets. I love the vets. And then they fire them.
Yeah. And I think you guys ran into Jasmine Crockett today. I think you have a clip, JJ. I keep surprising JJ, you guys.
This is not what we should be doing. I don't even know why we fighting with Greenland. Why we fighting with Greenland? We fighting with Canada. We fighting with Mexico. Yet we in love with Putin. What is happening? Like, this is not America. This is a terrible nightmare. Somebody slap me and wake me the fuck up, because I'm ready to get on with it.
That wasn't you guys, but still a great clip. And that's the thing. And then I think Alyssa said it much more classy. I talk about how, I think comparing today's Republican Party to Ronald Reagan's Republican Party in her speech. Deja? Different approach.
President Trump loves to say peace through strength. That's actually a line he stole from Ronald Reagan. But let me tell you, after the spectacle that just took place in the Oval Office last week, Reagan must be rolling in his grave. We all want an end to the war in Ukraine, but Reagan understood that true strength required America to combine our military and economic might with moral clarity. And that scene in the Oval Office wasn't just a bad episode of reality TV. It summed up Trump's whole approach to the world. He believes in cozying up to dictators like Vladimir Putin and kicking our friends like the Canadians in the teeth. He sees American leadership as merely a series of real estate transactions.
That was such a great line. I mean, that sums up Donald Trump's life and the people he's brought in, the oligarchs he's brought in, right? It's all about money. The quick transactions. Everything they do is a quick
Yeah.
transaction.
Well, look, I mean, it's funny. Everyone didn't even acknowledge the really quick crypto pump and dump they executed by announcing like a crypto, not
Reserve.
sovereign wealth fund, but reserve.
Yeah.
Where they decided to throw not. I could kind of get Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's become like digital gold. I guess it's become like a commodity. They threw in some shit that like I swear like a 13-year-old like developed like 6 days ago. Like
Yeah.
it's just classic grift that is happening right in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
no, please.
And the dangerous parts, I think we should touch on before I let it go. I mean, we should touch on the actual dangerous parts. I mean, the thing is, we heard him say they've designated the cartels as terrorist organizations. I wonder what that means. You know what I'm saying? If that opens up a lot of doors to military action, perhaps in our enemy, in our allied state. But let's show the clip where he talks about. I think he talks about Panama, right? We have a clip of him talking about Greenland as well.
It will have a huge impact. To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing it. Just today, a large American company announced they are buying both ports around the Panama Canal, and lots of other things having to do with the Panama Canal and a couple of other canals. And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security. And I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe.
Hilarious punchline, right? I mean, they're talking about threatening allies with violence, with military attacks, aren't they?
But that's the thing, right? It's all a joke to him. And
Right.
I feel like that's what Senator Slotkin was trying to observe. This is not the party of Ronald Reagan, where even if you disagreed with him, he took very seriously the office of the presidency and being commander-in-chief. This is the Trump show, and he wants us to all be subjected to it, and it's all a joke to him. But to the rest of the world and to people here, it's not at all funny, and it's not a joke.
Yeah. And there's the Ukraine, he kind of I don't know what he was talking about. Did you guys notice he kind of went off script Ukraine and gibberish, but he alluded that he got a letter from Zelensky today saying that they're ready to come to the table for peace. I don't want to run it, frankly, because he lied about the numbers of how much money. The new talking points of Republicans today, I noticed, was that the Europeans have bought more oil and gas from Russia than they've spent on Ukraine. And I think they're doing that, right, because they want to avoid the fact that Europe has actually donated more money to Ukraine defense than we have. I think it's 319 billion compared to our 180. So it's almost like they figured out a new talking point to avoid all that, is to talk about this oil and gas thing. But in the end, they didn't really get into much detail. I think Alyssa, she did talk about the border in the national security sense. Let's show Alyssa's comment because she went into the border issue.
How about national security? Let's start with the border. As someone who spent my whole career protecting our homeland, every country deserves to know who and what is coming across its border, period. Democrats and Republicans should all be for that. But securing the border without actually fixing our broken immigration system is dealing with the symptom and not the disease. America is a nation of immigrants. We need a functional system keyed to the needs of our economy that allows vetted people to come and work here legally.
Yeah. That's it, right? It's one thing that, and he only talked about one thing: it's locking down the border in it. So I don't want to go too long. Max, thoughts you know, as you were on the Hill today with our veterans, you talked to some of the current members, you're a former member. In the end, this was sort of a fluff. You're right. Nothing new. I don't think I heard anything new out of the speech that we should really act to. Is there? It's more the same shit, isn't it?
No, well, look, Matt hit the nail on the head. It's incredibly informative in regards to what he did not talk about. He didn't talk about lowering prices. He didn't talk about preserving market gains. He did not talk about the ways in which he will keep peace. He did not talk about the veterans he's firing. He did not talk about the VA facilities that are delayed opening or may never open. And so kind of his almost like a drunk, blind guy walking in the dark. He kind of, I imagine, start trying to gravitate to a safety light pole. And his kind of safety place is the culture war.
Yeah.
That's where he goes when he thinks that he's in a really weak position. All in an effort to go after people he deems weaker. Yeah. And I just, it's pretty gross stuff.
Yeah.
All right. I got to go to bed, guys.
Matt, last thoughts.
Man.
We're gonna let Max go to bed before he falls asleep. Matt, last thoughts. You've had a long day too, Matt. You've on the hill. Both of you on the hill all day. I've been chilling out at home. So y'all, Matt, you're up.
I don't sleep though. I wait. Max is absolutely right. And let's not forget that he uses the culture war as a distraction. And what he's trying to distract from is the fact that Elon Musk spent over $200 million this past election cycle to get Trump elected, to buy access. And now he's using his access to fire hardworking veterans. And that should be the message Democrats have heading into the weekend.
I love it. Gentlemen, I'm going to let you go to bed. I'll finish up alone because that's what I do. I'm an hour behind you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you. You guys stay out of trouble. Have a good night.
Peace.
You do.
See you in the fight soon. I would kick those tired guys out of here. I got control again. Well, thank you for joining us. I do want to. We did touch a lot on Elon, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about DOGE. And if you're watching this whole thing, if you skipped it, that was a good call too. But it was kind of interesting to see him. The real president stood up a couple of times. I think did he mention DOGE at one point? You got that clip of Elon getting his credit for all his hard work.
And I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight. It's very simple. And the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over.
They should have panned to Elon Musk. But funny thing, a couple of lawyers pointed out that the United States government arguing in court that the actual head, that Elon Musk is not the head of DOGE. It's that lady, I can't remember her name, who's the alleged head judge, because Elon isn't supposed to be in charge of anything. He's a special government employee. But now I assure you by tomorrow morning, the lawyers and the lawsuits trying to stop DOGE are going to have filings with a clip of our own president saying that Elon Musk is in charge of DOGE. So once again, Donald Trump has undermined his own lawsuits and his own lawyers, which is what he does. The fact is that he is in charge, and what they're doing is dismantling the government, and they're coming after government. We talked about this week, if you watched our show, or last week, we talked about the contract. There's debacle at VA where they canceled $2 billion in contracts, discovered that there are contracts that included actually cleaning like equipment in hospitals, cleaning hospitals, processing veterans benefit claims, just one after another, so then they pulled those back. And then we found out just recently, I had a source call me from the VA telling me that the way they reviewed the contracts was to call the CEO of each of the contract companies and give them 4 hours to provide justification for their contract. And then today they announced that they had deleted like 98 million. Again, it's happenstance. It's haphazard. It's unprofessional. It's a mess. And all we can do is keep fighting it. So I'm going to let you go. It's late. Here's the pitch. Of course, we are VoteVets. You can find more information at votevets.org. That's our website. If you go to that website, you'll see a couple of buttons I want you to know. Button number one is the donate button, because without you clicking a couple of bucks to us, we can't do this work that we're doing, including bringing our veterans to the Hill today, including the largest donation in our history to Abigail Spanberger, so we can take back Virginia for a great national security focused candidate, including gathering together to talk about these issues. So the donate button's on the top of that. The other button is the take action button where you can join us. And then the third one I want to tell you about is our DOGE tip line. We have set up a tip line for those who've been affected by the DOGE cuts, either veterans who've been fired or family members. That's where we found the folks that we flew in today. Those 6, they actually came to the DOGE tip line. And so it's votevets.org/DOGE-tip line. If you've been affected in any way by these DOGE cuts, we are very interested in hearing from you. If you're a veteran, if your care is suffering, we're getting reports of those. A lot of you are texting me. I love hearing from you. But if you take your time and go to the DOGE tip line, we'll gather those stories and we could use those on the Hill to help fight against this monstrous behavior by the Trump administration and Elon Musk, who's just a horrible human being in every way. So with that, I'm not going to keep you any longer. That's our State of the Union's Hot Watch. Thank you for joining us. As always, we are on the lines with VoteVets. We're scheduled for another show on schedule this time, Friday afternoon. As always, we'll be talking about a lot of this stuff because, as you know, it's only Tuesday, folks. So a lot of crazy shit's going to happen between now and then. And we'll be here to talk about all of it as it affects our national security, our veterans, our military members. Thank you for joining us. Again, I am Fred Wellman, retired Army, host of On Law with VoteVets. Thanks for all your support. We will see you again soon.